So this anchor is pretty cool. Whoa! Welcome back, boys. This is going to be a good video. I really love this topic because as a guy who works on boats all the time, I really do see 70 to 80% of all the people who come into my shop have the wrong size or style anchor on their boat. Now, full disclosure here, I am not an anchor expert. I'm going to be giving you information that I collected off the web, as well as my own personal experience in some pretty severe rough weather, kind of like the rough weather you see behind me here. And also, thanks to this green screen technology, I'll be able to show you examples and photos of the anchors as we're moving along here. But before we get going, we have to thank the biggest supporter of the channel, and that is my wife. And I really haven't ever thanked her in a video before, but I'm going to thank you right now, babe, for not only supporting the channel by buying me cool camera equipment and lights, but also putting up with the ridiculousness that comes out of my mouth. Thank you. I love you. If you guys would like to help ease the pain on my wife's pocketbook, you guys can go ahead and sign up as a member for this page or go over and join Patreon. Choosing the right size anchor for your boat can be difficult and daunting, and a lot of times, you know, if you're at Bass Pro Shop or Cabela's, they're just going to lie to you to sell you whatever anchor they think you might be interested in. Towards the end of the video here, guys, I'm going to put up a chart that shows you what range your boat's going to be in and what anchor you should be using. Now, before we get into really what kind of anchor you should have on your boat, we're going to talk about different styles of anchors. And the first and most common anchor you're going to see is this anchor right here, the Danforth anchor. Now, a lot of people nowadays will say this is a lightweight anchor, but it really isn't, because the heavier anchor you get, the more weight it can hold. These anchors can range anywhere from like 2.5 pounds all the way up to 200 pounds. These anchors are going to be used best for the bottom types that are like hard sand or mud, because they're going to be able to grip really, really firm into that. Rocky bottoms, not so good, because they actually, from time to time, can get stuck. Now, this anchor right here, we don't need a picture, but this is a grapple anchor, and I'm sure you guys have seen these all over the place. They open up, you lock this little jobber down, and you have a grapple anchor. Now, I don't really like these. The only reason that I have this anchor is it's very useful for me for small boats, you know, getting from your boat to like a beach or the shoreline, just because it's really, once it's buried in there, it's going to lock in pretty tight and give a lot of protection for, you know, the smaller, you know, dinghy or whatever that you've brought ashore. Now, this anchor, which is the claw or Bruce anchor, this anchor is pretty cool because no matter how your boat pivots around, this anchor will actually turn, you know, in the bottom with it. Again, unless it's a, you know, super rocky bottom. This anchor, which is the plow or the Delta anchor, probably one of the best anchors out there that you can buy. It's a little hard to retrieve, but this anchor, when it lands on the bottom, it will generally land on its side. And as you're backing your boat down, it will right itself and will plow into the bottom. And finally, this little piece of shit right here, the mushroom anchor. And unless you're in a kayak, don't be buying any of these anchors. They're stupid, they're a waste of money, and they do absolutely nothing for you. So just don't buy them. Guys, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but size does matter. But here's a few things that should be considered regardless of your size of your boat. What do you do with your boat? Is this a lake boat? Is it an offshore boat? Is it an ocean boat? Is this a day trip? Or, you know, something you're going to use for lunch? Or are you going overnight? The most important, guys, I can't stress this enough, if the weather takes a turn for the worse, is this anchor that you have going to keep you safe? Are you anchoring in super deep water? Because if you're in deep water, you're going to need a little bit bigger of an anchor. Choosing an anchor, you need to go based off of what they call the 30 mile per hour requirement or recommendation. Now, most of you people watching this video, and I'm not making assumptions, so I apologize ahead of time, but I'm going to say your boats are within the 20 to 25 foot length. So according to the chart that I'm going to show you in a little bit, you would need a 13-pound anchor for your 20 to 25 foot boat. Again, used as a day anchor for winds less than 30 knots. Now, for that same size boat, a storm anchor, which would be a 50 knot wind, you're going to want to have a 25-pound anchor. that leads us into kind of a strange little topic here, is that on my boat, the Repco, the 21 footer, that's what I have, is a 25-pound anchor. Regardless of if I'm just going out for the day, overnight, or whatever, I want to have that anchor as a just in case. Now, let's talk about something that I think is overlooked more often than not when it comes to anchoring your boat, and that's the term scope. Not the mouthwash, folks, not the mouthwash. But scope is the amount of line that you have between your anchor and the cleat on your boat. Now, there are some formulas for this, and there's usually 2-to-1 or 5-to-1. 2-to-1 would be for your typical Danforth style anchor, and for plow anchors, you're up in the 5-to-1 ratio. So what does all this jargon mean? Well, pretty much and very simply, if we're running the 2-to-1 ratio for scope, and you're in 20 feet of water, you want to have 40 feet of scope. For the 5-to-1 ratio, if you're in 50 feet of water, you want 100 feet of scope. That is correct. Now, no matter if you're going to follow all this complex math that I just gave you, really what you constantly need to remember is you do not want your anchor line to be vertical. You want it to be more, not horizontal, but more of at a degree, because that way your boat is constantly pulling on the anchor instead of trying to pull it up. Now, rope. Well, what kind of rope should we be using in conjunction with our anchor chain? Well, pretty simple. It's the nylon 3-strand twist. Now, the nylon rope really gives you a lot of benefits because it can really take an impact, you know, a good hard bang. Now, let's talk about the size of the anchor line you need to have. Now, again, the general rule of thumb is 1/8 inch for every 9 feet of boat. But realistically speaking, for a lot of the lake boats and stuff like that, you know, you could go, you know, 1/4 inch to 3/8, but I would probably use the 3/8 line. Now on my boat, again, for extra added security, I have 1/2 inch. Now let's talk about these guys right here, shackles. Now, here's something that, boy, I can't, if there's one thing you're going to take away from this video about safety and anchoring, please heed my words. Now, shackles, man, they have a real tendency for that piece to back its way out. And if it does, you're going to come off your anchor. And not only are you going to lose a, you know, pricey anchor, but you're going to be adrift. So one of the things that I'm going to put a link down below in the comments, but what I really recommend you do is to buy some of this stainless steel wire, and you simply loop it through the little eyelet in that screw, twist it, and then wrap it around the shackle a couple of times. That's going to prevent that from spinning off. Do not use a zip tie. Now, clearly I'm not going to get into how to retrieve your anchor or set your anchor or any of that stuff because I'm standing in front of a green screen, not actually on a boat. Now, guys, if you're getting something out of this video, whether it's a laugh or actual educational information, do me a favor, hit the like button, please and thank you. All right, well, now I'm going to go ahead and put this chart up so you guys can take a look at it. And, you know, again, feel free to pause the video right here, take a screen capture, whatever you guys want to do. The video's not over yet, but I also want to let you know that we're going to be filming a pretty decent adventure, a beautiful trip up to Maine. To take a look at a lobster boat I've been helping build and all the sea trial processes and all that other stuff. I think you guys will really get a kick out of it, so stay tuned for that video. Another really good tip I'd like to give you guys is that when you're attaching your anchor line to your bow cleat or whatever cleat you're using, it's always a good idea that after you lock it off, to then run the rest of the tail end of that line, back to a different cleat, just in case. All right, now let's talk about how much anchor line do you need? Well, this is kind of like one of those weird things where you really don't want to be toting around 7,000 feet of anchor line, but you also don't want to have too little anchor line. So a really good general rule of thumb is to bring 7 to 10 times the depth of water that you're going to be in. So if you're anchoring in 7 feet of water, you're going to want to bring 70 feet of anchor line. Now for my boat, I have 2 anchor setups, not 4, 2. I have 2 anchor setups. One is for 100 feet or less, and then I have some for 300 feet plus. So we've covered size, girth, and length. Questions, leave them in the comments below, guys. That's it for me. We'll see you next time.